Hey everybody, thank you for checking out the debut episode of Nick Drinks Beer. My name is Nick, and let's drink some beer. So before we get into the first review, the first review, we're not talking to beer, we're talking about beer. I just want to give you guys a quick rundown of who I am, what I hope to do with this show, what my goals are, just that kind of really basic FAQ informational kind of stuff. So my name is Nick. I live in Rockford, Illinois, which is it's a town about 60-some-ish miles west of Chicago. So if you go due west of Chicago, Rockford is kind of like the last biggest city that you hit before it's nothing but cornfields for a very, very long time. I work in social media and marketing by day, and I'm just a really avid, passionate craft beer enthusiast by afternoon and night. I am not, I don't work in the beer industry in any way. I'm not really tied to the beer industry in any way. 1 second, please. My dog is driving me nuts. Okay, all's better now. Yeah, I don't work in the beer industry in any way. I'm not tied to it. I am just someone, like I said, who's really enthusiastic about beer. I got into beer about maybe 2011, 2012. I kind of dipped my toe into beer, in a manner of speaking. And then about 2012-ish, 2013, I really just went head over heels and just fell in love with craft beer, and have been just kind of going full bore ever since. I'm not a beer expert. I'm not, a certified Cicerone. I'm not a BJCP judge. These reviews are really just my personal takes on different beers. But, in my 7 or 8 year craft beer drinking career, whatever you want to call it, I've read a lot about beer. I've studied about beer. I really tried to approach it from something of an academic standpoint. And sorry, the dog's doing something weird again. And as a result, I feel that I have a decent basis of knowledge about what is a good beer and what is just a shitty beer. And so I feel fairly confident in being able to lead you guys in that direction, what's good, what's just not, but also kind of divorce my own personal preference and objectively look at a beer and say, yes, this beer is good. It's not my taste, but people who like this kind of beer, you should check it out, that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit about me. I'm sure we will get to know each other more, and more of my personal quirks and what have yous will come out as we go. I'm hoping to do this show a couple times a week. Those of you who know me know I don't drink during the week. It's just not part of my lifestyle. I kind of relegate, or not relegate, but restrict my enjoyment of beer to just Fridays, Saturdays, and most Sundays. So I'm going to try to shoot these as often as I can during the weekends, and then kind of sprinkle them throughout the week. So hopefully you guys are getting 2 or 3 maybe a week. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Maybe you'll get more, maybe you'll get less. We'll have to just see how it kind of develops. I'm hoping with this show to do a couple of things. One, I'm hoping to review beers that you guys can actually go out and find and get. I watch a good number of beer review-ish shows, whether it's on YouTube or housed on certain websites. And one of my beefs with those reviews is that so many times the beers that are reviewed are beers I'm just never going to get a chance to try, because they're super hard to get. They're, quote-unquote whale beers, or they're beers that are just hyper local to wherever that person lives. So I want to try as often as I can to review beers that you guys can go out to your local liquor store, grocery store, and actually pick up and try. There's going to be some exceptions to that, though. There are going to be beers that I review that I just really love and want you guys to try, and they're beers that I think are outstanding and just don't get the fanfare that I think they should get. There's going to be some of those reviews. In fact, I can already tell you off the top of my head that there will be some of those coming up soon. I'm also having friends who are into beer and having friends who work in the industry. I am fortunate enough every once in a while to luck into a really rare bottle or can of beer. And if that happens, if I'm so lucky, I will share that with you guys as well, because that's a special beer, kind of deserves special treatment. But again, most of the time it's stuff that I want you guys to go out and get. That's the goal. Also, so for a majority of these beers, aside from the ones that I'm just trying to prop up because I think they deserve more love, these are beers that I am tasting for the first time. So these are completely unvarnished opinions, assessments of these beers. It's happening in real time. I'm tasting it and just talking about it with you for the first time. So just kind of keep that in mind as well, that we're kind of improving here to a certain degree. I'm trying to think what else. That might be about it. I think after that we'll just get rolling. So I was trying to figure out what beer would be a good beer to sort of kick off this show. So like I said, I live in Rockford. It is frigid right now in the Midwest. I'm sure you've been reading all about the polar vortex and just this Hoth-like planet that I live in right now. It's still just completely butt-ass cold outside, so I wanted to find a beer or pick a beer to do for the first show that would be appropriate for the weather that we're having. And I went to my local grocery store on my lunch hour yesterday and came across a beer I've never had that just hit the shelves that is from one of my favorite breweries. And so I figured that's as good a beer as any. So this beer here is Bear Republic, that's the brewery, I'm sorry, Bear Republic Brewing Company out of Cloverdale, California. I thought they were from Healdsburg, California. I don't know, maybe they have a new location or something. But this is their Big Bear Black Stout. Bear Republic Brewing Company, been around for a long time now. I want to say maybe 20-ish years, maybe more, maybe a little over 20 years now. They make some phenomenal, really hoppy beers, IPAs, pale ales, double IPAs, stuff like that. One of my favorite beers of all time is from Bear Republic. It's their IPA. It's the IPA they're probably most known for, which is Racer 5. A really awesome West Coast IPA. Like I said, it's one of my favorites, and it will be happening. I will be reviewing that beer at some point in the future, I can promise you, because it's an awesome beer. And I have a special place in my heart for it. But yeah, this is their Big Stout, and I figured Big Stout, cold-ass day, seems to make sense. So Big Bear Black Stout, coming in at 8.1% alcohol by volume, so definitely getting up into Russian Imperial Stout territory. For those of you who may not know, Stout is an English style of beer. Your traditional standard English stout probably comes in at about 5.5, 6-ish percent. That's hard to say. Anything bigger than that, you're kind of getting into export stout or foreign stout territory, which is what it sounds like. These were stouts that were meant to be exported outside of England, so they had to be higher in alcohol to withstand the journey. And then the biggest of the stouts really is your Russian Imperial Stout, which was exported to the Russian Imperial Court and other Baltic regions because the Russians and folks in those parts of the world like their stouts big and robust, and that's what the English would brew for them, and 8.1% is definitely getting into that Russian Imperial Stout territory. So they call this their Black Stout. They call it an American Stout. What's that going to mean? My guess is, if I had to take a shot in the dark, it's going to be a fairly hoppy stout, and it's going to be hopped with those Pacific Northwest hops, those sort of classic West Coast IPA hops. So you're looking at, if I had to take a shot in the dark, you're looking at Cascade, you're looking at Centennial, you're looking at Chinook, you're looking at Columbus. It doesn't say what it's hopped with, but if I, again, shot in the dark, that's what I would say. So let's get into a glass and see what it's all about, shall we? Oh my God, there we go. That was really on there. Get this one into a glass. How's this going so far for you guys? Good? Yeah? You having fun? Is this fun? I'm having fun. I hope you are too. Wow, I can smell that already. That smells awesome. So, getting it in the glass, what do we got? Yeah, that's a pretty black beer. I hope it comes through on camera, or on phone, rather. I shoot these on my iPhone, so if it's super hard to hear or it's just not the great quality, what are you going to do? That's what I have to work with. But yeah, super dark beer. Hold it up to the light. There's not, I mean, it's not the blackest beer known to man. There's definitely a little bit of sort of like ruby or maybe brownish or tawny highlights, but for all intents and purposes, that is a black beer. Really nice, creamy or foamy head on there, about 2 fingers of it, really sticking around nicely. Looks nice in my Hopewell Brewing Company glass that I have here. So let's see what she smells like. So right up front, I get dark chocolate. Dark chocolate, that's coming from the malts, from those roasted malts. It's not quite like fudge, but it's just like a really nice bar of dark chocolate. A little bit of toffee or caramel in there as well. Yeah, it's a little fudgy, a little bit dusty, so maybe almost like a cocoa powder, maybe. Um, Coffee for sure, roasted coffee, definitely. So if you go to if you go to a coffee house, it's not like a cup of coffee that you would drink, but if you go to a coffee house and they're roasting beans right there, fresh in the place, it smells like that. And there's a slight bit. I keep getting it on my nose. Jesus. There is a little bit of a hop edge to it as well, and I think I was right. It's those Pacific Northwest hops. I get a little bit of like a bit of citrusy note to it. So maybe just like tiny bit of like a sweet orange or maybe a little bit of grapefruit. Yeah, a little bit of char as well. This has got to stop with this beer in the nose nonsense. Yeah, a little bit of not smoke, but yeah, just a little bit of char. No alcohol on the nose at 8.1%. Sometimes you can start to, when you get up into those higher alcohols, you can start to smell the booze. Not here. And a little bit of, maybe a little bit of tobacco too. Let's see how it tastes. So a medium bodied beer. Um, Not entirely bone dry. There's a little bit of sweetness there. All of the hops do really clean it off your palate, and it ends pretty dry. Right up front, I get a smack of bitterness from the roast. It probably some hops in there too, but I would think primarily roast. Transitions mid palate, you get, like I was saying on the nose, you get dark chocolate, cocoa, a little bit of caramel, and then those Northwest hops come in, and you get a little bit of this citrusy, piney, slightly piney, citrusy finish to it, and it ends pretty dry. There's a little bit of sweetness there, but it ends pretty dry. How many times does the guy talking into a camera have to smell a beer before he stops getting it on his mustache? Apparently, it's more than 5. Um, Yeah, nice mouthfeel. Like I said, it's medium bodied, but it's nice and soft on the palate. That bitterness really, because again, it's not a sweet beer, but it's a fairly assertive bitterness. I wouldn't, it's not necessarily, well, it's a little bit out of balance, but it's not a unpleasant bitterness. It's a clean bitterness. It just kind of scrubs the sweetness off your palate, and even in the aftertaste though, even though that bitterness scrubs it off, in the aftertaste there's a nice little slight hint of sweetness there still in your mouth and on your tongue. Um, no trace of alcohol whatsoever for like I said, 8% beer. Drinks super smooth, and really, again, for a cold ass day, um, really just a really nice beer. Mm. Yeah, and that bitterness does grow a little bit. So, let's put this so you can see it. You know, one bottle of this without some food or something to cut it with would probably be enough. It is an 8% stout after all, but yeah, I could see some heartier foods going with this as well, or even a slightly sweeter dessert. I think would be really nice too. Maybe like a double chocolate cake or something like that, because it is fairly aggressively bittered. So something a little bit sweet or maybe a little rich would go really awesome with this. You know, good beer. Definitely a perfect beer for this time of year, and one that you guys should definitely check out. You know, what am I going to score it on a, you know, 90, 100, 80, 90, 70, 80 scale, you know, an A, B, C, D scale? You know, mm, the mouthfeel on this is great. It's just super soft. I'll go 80. I'll go 90. 90. Yeah. 90-point beer here. That was the Big Bear Black Stout from Bear Republic Brewing Company out in California. Thank you guys for checking out the debut episode here. We'll be back shortly with more beer reviews. If you have constructive criticism, comments, questions, beers you think I should be reviewing on this show, please leave them. Let's try that. Please leave them in the comments section, and we will see you guys soon. Until then, I'm Nick, and I'm going to go drink some beer. Cheers.